Brasília, October 1st, 2025, Brazil's Foreign Minister Mauro Vieira addressed lawmakers in the Chamber of Deputies with an unusually somber tone as he spoke about the growing concerns for the safety of Brazilian nationals on board a Gaza-bound humanitarian flotilla. The flotilla, known as the Peace Flotilla, had set sail carrying medical supplies, food and other essentials meant for civilians in Gaza. However, its journey has been overshadowed by mounting tensions and reports of an attempted attack as the ship entered contested waters in the eastern Mediterranean. Standing before the assembled deputies in Brasília, Vieira made it clear that the situation was of urgent importance, not only because of the international implications, but also because of the direct involvement of Brazilian citizens. Mauro Vieira said, "I wanted to say that we are concerned about 15 Brazilians on board the Peace Flotilla, including a federal deputy, Humanitarian Lins, and a city councilor as well." His words drew murmurs in the chamber as the revelation underscored the gravity of the unfolding crisis. The presence of elected Brazilian representatives among the passengers highlighted the stakes for Brasília, turning what might otherwise have been a distant geopolitical incident into a matter of national concern. Vieira emphasized that the Brazilian government was treating the matter with the highest priority. Addressing the deputies, he detailed the steps taken in response to the situation. Mauro Vieira stated, "We are concerned. The Brazilian government has communicated directly with Israel and taken several measures to condemn this attempt. There was already an attack attempt, and we have stressed to the Israeli government that they are responsible for the safety of everyone on the flotilla." The foreign minister's remarks came after reports surfaced of an attack attempt on the flotilla, an incident that has fueled diplomatic tensions and raised fears for the safety of those on board. Although details about the nature of the attempted attack remain scarce, the news has heightened anxieties both in Brazil and internationally. Vieira described the government's communication with Israel as direct and unequivocal, stressing that Brasília has made it clear to Israeli authorities that they bear responsibility for ensuring the safety of all passengers aboard the humanitarian vessel. His insistence on accountability came as deputies pressed for clarity on the government's position and the measures being taken to protect Brazilian citizens in a volatile conflict zone. The flotilla's mission, aimed at delivering humanitarian aid to civilians in Gaza, has been seen by some as a symbolic gesture of solidarity amid the ongoing humanitarian crisis in the region. However, others view it as a potential flashpoint, given the tensions between Israel and various international groups supporting the shipment. In Brasília, Vieira sought to strike a balance between expressing solidarity with the humanitarian cause and ensuring that Brazil's stance remained grounded in the principles of diplomacy and the safety of its citizens. He acknowledged the sensitivity of the situation, particularly with two elected representatives, Federal Deputy Humanitarian Lins and a city councillor, among the passengers. Their presence has added a layer of political pressure on the Brazilian government to act swiftly and decisively. During the hearing, several deputies expressed concern not just about the safety of the passengers, but also about the implications for Brazil's foreign policy stance in the region. The incident has sparked debates in Brasília about the country's role in international humanitarian missions and its approach to Middle East diplomacy. Vieira reassured lawmakers that Brazil would continue to advocate for the protection of civilians and the upholding of international humanitarian law. He underscored that the government's immediate focus was on the safe return of its nationals and on preventing any escalation that might endanger lives. Brazil has always stood for peaceful resolution of conflicts and the protection of civilians in war zones, he reminded the chamber, reiterating the nation's long-standing diplomatic tradition. The incident has also prompted questions about the security arrangements for such humanitarian missions and the risks faced by civilian aid workers in conflict zones. Experts in Brasília have pointed out that while such missions often carry profound symbolic significance, they can become entangled in the larger geopolitical struggles of the regions they seek to help. For Brazil, the situation is particularly sensitive. The participation of Brazilian lawmakers in the flotilla has shifted the issue from a distant foreign policy matter to a domestic political concern. Vieira's testimony before the deputies reflects the government's recognition of that shift and its effort to keep the public informed. Observers note that Brasilia's call for Israel to ensure the safety of the flotilla's passengers reflects a broader concern among international actors about the rules of engagement in conflict zones and the protection of humanitarian missions. Humanitarian organizations have long argued that such missions must be shielded from military or political retaliation to ensure aid reaches civilians in need. In recent years, Brazil has sought to position itself as a voice for dialogue and peace in international forums, particularly on issues affecting the global south. The current crisis tests that posture, requiring the government to balance its principles with the practical need to safeguard its citizens abroad. As the hearing continued, deputies pressed Vieira for further details on the government's contingency plans in the event of further hostilities or incidents targeting the flotilla. While the minister refrained from discussing operational specifics, he assured lawmakers that all necessary channels were being utilised to ensure the passengers' safety. International reactions to the incident have been varied. Some governments have expressed solidarity with the flotilla's humanitarian mission, while others have cautioned that such actions risk escalating tensions in an already volatile region. Brazil's diplomatic outreach, as described by Vieira, appears aimed at encouraging restraint and dialogue while keeping the focus on the humanitarian imperative. Political analysts in Brasília suggest that the episode may also have domestic political implications. The involvement of prominent political figures in the flotilla means that any harm to the passengers could provoke strong public and parliamentary reactions, potentially influencing Brazil's foreign policy debates. For now, the government's priority remains clear: securing the safety of the 15 Brazilians aboard the vessel and averting any further violence. Vieira's address to the Chamber of Deputies served both as an update on the government's actions and as a reassurance to the public that Brazil is actively engaged in protecting its citizens. In his concluding remarks, the foreign minister reiterated Brazil's commitment to peace and the protection of civilians caught in conflict zones. He stressed that the country would continue to use diplomatic channels to advocate for the safety of its nationals and for adherence to international humanitarian norms. The humanitarian flotilla's journey to Gaza has been overshadowed by an attempted attack, raising international alarm. Brazil's government has demanded that Israel ensure the safety of the passengers, particularly the 15 Brazilian nationals aboard. The presence of Brazilian lawmakers among the passengers has elevated the issue from an international concern to a pressing domestic matter in Brazil.
E para permitir espaço adequado para as encerradas ao término da exposição do ministro por analógica ao que prevê o artigo 171.
Como foram também relevantes as referências elogiosas que o presidente Donald Trump dirigiu à marinha de dois importantes países europeus, a Espanha e a Itália, o histórico e a qualidade das relações que o Brasil e os Estados Unidos sempre mantiveram.
Perguntas e respostas adotaremos de autoria do deputado Mauro Vieira de Mello, que requereram esclarecimento sobre a influência e
até chegar a Gaza para evitar que haja ofensivas militares
adotados no contexto do Plano Brasil Soberano. Requerimento número 100 Vieira de Mello, que requereram esclarecimentos acerca do grave e isolado diplomáticos aqui
dessa casa e da sociedade brasileira. Esta é, desde o início do terceiro mandato do presidente Lula, da Câmara dos Deputados, deputado Luiz Nishimori, em nome de quem cumprimento as senhoras deputadas. Com satisfação, compareço à Comissão de Relações Exteriores e Defesa Nacional novamente.
I wanted to say that we are concerned about 15 Brazilians on board the peace flotilla, including a federal deputy, Luiziane Lins, and a city councilor as well.
Uma deputada federal, deputada Luiziane Lins, e uma vereadora também.
We are concerned. The Brazilian government has communicated directly with Israel and taken several measures to condemn this attempt. There was already an attack attempt, and we have stressed to the Israeli government that they are responsible for the safety of everyone on the flotilla.
Chamamos a atenção, inclusive, do governo de Israel, dizendo que eles são responsáveis pela segurança das pessoas que estão nessa flotilha.